On August 16, 2025 at 4 a.m., Burkina Faso made global headlines. A massive arms smuggling operation, 57 trucks packed with weapons, was intercepted in a daring operation led directly by President Ibrahim Traoré. The convoy was stopped in the Canary region near the Togo border. It had been moving slowly under the cover of darkness, far from usual shipping routes. Captain Moussa Traoré, commanding border forces, immediately sensed something was wrong and alerted senior officials. Initial intelligence suggested the trucks carried humanitarian aid. But why would aid be delivered at midnight? Why take back roads? President Traoré called in Special Forces Commander General Ibrahim Zerbo and gave the order: intercept the convoy carefully. Drones and helicopters tracked the trucks. At 4 a.m., the Special Forces blocked the road. The drivers panicked. Some tried to flee, but all were captured within minutes. What they found stunned everyone. Under sacks disguised as aid were AK-47s, M16s, rocket launchers, grenades, and explosives. Every truck was a mobile arsenal. Captain Traoré immediately contacted the president. "Mr. President, these trucks could arm an entire army." President Traoré responded calmly, "Secure everything, don't lose a single bullet, and make those drivers talk." The first breakthrough came from Marc-Antoine Zongo, a captured driver. He confessed they were told they were hauling agricultural machinery to a warehouse in Togo. Most drivers were unaware of the real cargo, but the operation was clearly planned with precision. Trucks departed from different locations and met only near the border, designed to avoid suspicion. Investigators traced some weapon serial numbers, despite attempts to erase them. The origins were shocking: leftover arms from the Libyan civil war, weapons used in Yemen, and brand new ones straight from factories. The total value? Over $700 million. Traoré called an emergency National Security Council meeting. The seized arsenal included 25,000 AK-47s, 10,000 M16s, 13 million rounds of ammunition, 70,000 hand grenades, 2,500 rocket launchers, 400 anti-aircraft missiles, 50 tons of explosives. Defense Minister General Sadu said, "This is enough to invade a country." Interior Minister Kaur added, "This could have fueled an insurgency or a coup." President Traoré declared, "This is not a random smuggling operation. This is a deliberate attempt to destabilize our country, just like Libya, Syria, and Yemen. But we caught them." Then came another bombshell. One of the drivers gave up a location: secret warehouses in Ouagadougou. The president launched Operation Storm. The next day, security forces raided 23 warehouses in the capital. Weapons were found in 17. Among the arrested, former ministers, generals, wealthy businessmen, and foreign diplomats. All shared one thing: opposition to Traoré's administration. On the fourth day, François Bongo, a prominent businessman, confessed. This wasn't just about arms. This was a plan to overthrow President Traoré, and foreign powers were allegedly involved. According to Bongo, meetings were held in Accra with delegates from Abidjan. Instructions came from Paris. The green light came from Washington. The operation was called Restore Democracy, with a $700 million budget, and the 57 trucks were just phase one. The plan: trigger terrorist attacks, spark public chaos, then launch a coup using traitors within the military. Names were dropped. Allegedly involved were foreign diplomats, corporate executives, and NGO officials. President Traoré took the truth public. At a televised press conference with confiscated weapons behind him, he addressed the nation and the world. This was not just smuggling. It was an organized plot to destroy Burkina Faso from within. He held up classified documents and said, "Here is proof: 47 trucks, $100 million in weapons meant to divide and conquer us." To global journalists asking who was behind it, Traoré responded, "Some of the weapons were manufactured in NATO countries. The investigation is ongoing. The truth will be revealed. This is not just an attack on Burkina Faso," he warned. "This is an attack on all of Africa. Similar plots are being uncovered in Mali, Niger, and Guinea." When asked about security, he replied, "The army is on high alert, borders are sealed, and most importantly, our people are with us." He then played Bongo's video confession, where the businessman wept. "They lied to us. We thought we were bringing democracy, but we were destroying our country." Traoré declared, "These are people willing to sell out their nation for money and power, but they failed, and they will continue to fail." As the investigation widened, more shocking details emerged. The plot wasn't limited to Burkina Faso. Documents showed plans to remove Mali's President Goïta, Niger's General Chiani, and install pro-Western governments. The total budget? $1 billion. The money trail led investigators to networks in the Gulf and Europe. It was no longer a regional issue, it was global. At a second press conference, President Traoré declared, "The masks are off. We are the grandchildren of Thomas Sankara, and we will not kneel to anyone." He held up a new document, a pre-written list of ministers for a replacement government, ready to take power after the coup. "Look at the arrogance," he said. "They divided our ministries before toppling our government. But they forgot one thing. This land belongs to the people of Burkina Faso." Among those arrested were foreign nationals, 3 French, 2 British, 1 American, and 2 Israelis, all carrying diplomatic passports. None were official diplomats. Western nations demanded their release. Traore refused. "Diplomatic passports do not give you the right to commit crimes on our soil." The suspects were brought to court. Charges included treason, arms trafficking, and attempting to overthrow the state. The evidence, audio, video, financial records, and confessions, was overwhelming. Western countries threatened sanctions, but others stood with Burkina Faso. Russia voiced support. China offered security aid. Turkey called arms smuggling a crime against humanity. Iran condemned Western interference. Venezuela's President Maduro hailed Traore as Africa's Bolivar. On August 17th, Traore addressed the nation. "A week ago, we disrupted a massive plot. We prevented a civil war." He announced that some of the weapons would be melted down and the scrap sold to fund education and health. The rest would either modernize the army or be destroyed. That evening, thousands gathered in Independence Square. President Traore declared, "This was the future our enemies planned. But we stayed alert, we stayed united, and we won." He made a bold promise. "With the money from melting these weapons, we will build 100 schools, 50 clinics, and 1,000 kilometers of irrigation canals. Tools of death will become tools of life." In front of the nation, the first rifle was melted and turned into a school bell. "This," he said, "is the sound of peace." The world watched in awe. A UN representative called it a first in African history. The African Union declared it a turning point. Africa was now ready to rise on its own terms. The investigation exposed a global arms network involving dealers across Eastern Europe, Libya, and the Sahel. Traore handed evidence to Interpol. Arrests followed. Assets were frozen. The web began to unravel. And so, the story of Burkina Faso became the story of an entire continent standing up and saying, "Enough." From weapons to school bells, from fear to unity, from silence to resistance. This is not the end. It's the beginning of Africa's awakening.